The Ilerian transmission crackled through Earth's deep space listening arrays, startling Lieutenant Kane Tavo, who had been monitoring the usually quiet sector. He sat up straight, adjusting his headset as the broken message repeated. The voice sounded desperate, with strange clicking sounds between words that the translator struggled to process. This is the Ilerian coalition. Our worlds are being systematically destroyed by the Vorax hierarchy. We beg any civilization receiving this message, please help us. Tahoe's fingers flew across his console, running authentication protocols while simultaneously alerting his superiors. Earth had only established its first few extrasolar colonies in the past decade. Contact with non-human intelligence had been limited to simple microbial finds and ancient ruins. This was the first live distress call from another spacefaring species. Sir, I've confirmed the signal origin. It's coming from the Ta-CD system, approximately 12 light-years away, Tahoe reported to Commander Ryu, who had rushed to the monitoring station. Commander Ryu studied the signal analysis, her face tightening. Continue monitoring. I'm taking this to Central Command. Within 6 hours, the message had been relayed to every major Earth government. By nightfall, the United Earth Defense Council convened an emergency session. The Grand Chamber in Geneva buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from all Earth nations gathered. Admiral Park Ju-woo stood at the center podium, her decorated uniform stark against the wood paneling behind her. At 62, she had seen Earth through its first hesitant steps into the solar system and beyond. Now she faced the assembled representatives with a grave expression. We have confirmed the authenticity of the distress signal, she began, her voice steady. The Ilerians are a peaceful civilization, with minimal defensive capabilities according to the data packet that accompanied their message. The Vorax hierarchy appears to be methodically harvesting their planets for resources. The room erupted with questions. Admiral Park raised her hand for silence. We have limited information, but what we do know is troubling. The Ilerians claim the Vorax have already destroyed 3 of their colony worlds. They are a silicon-based life form with technology roughly comparable to our own. The holographic display behind her activated, showing star charts and the approximate locations of both civilizations relative to Earth. Counselor Kim Dong-yun from the Pacific Alliance rose. Admiral, with all due respect, we've barely established our own interstellar presence. This isn't our fight. We have only 8 combat-capable starships. What could we possibly do against a force capable of destroying entire worlds? Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Earth's ventures into space had been primarily scientific and commercial. The modest defense fleet had been built as a precaution, not for actual warfare. I understand your concern, Admiral Park replied. But consider the implications. If we ignore this call, and the Vorax continue their expansion, how long before they reach our space? The Ilerians are only 12 light-years away. Or this could be a trap, suggested Representative Choi from the North Asian Coalition. We know nothing about either species. Admiral Park nodded to her assistant, who tapped a command into her tablet. We receive more than just a verbal message. The Ilerians sent visual data as well. I must warn you, what you're about to see is disturbing. The room fell silent as the main screen displayed the recovered footage. The video showed tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin rushing through crystal structures. Their movements were graceful despite their obvious panic. Behind them, massive mechanical forms tore into buildings. The machines had insectoid qualities, with multiple appendages efficiently stripping materials from structures and sorting them into collection units. The footage shifted to an orbital view, showing massive ships hovering above an azure planet. Beams of intense energy carved into the surface below. The final sequence showed Ilerian children, unmistakable despite their alien features, being sheltered by adults as the ground shook around them. This is genocide, whispered Representative Santos from the South American Federation. They're not just taking resources, they're eliminating the Ilerians entirely. Admiral Park, Let the images settle into the consciousness of everyone present. The Ilarians have provided coordinates for a safe meeting point at the edge of their system. They're asking for any help we can provide. Counselor Kim looked shaken but remained resolute. The risk is too great. We would be committing Earth to an interstellar conflict with an unknown enemy. We should continue monitoring, but maintain our distance. The debate raged for hours. Security experts warned of exposure. Humanitarian groups argued for immediate aid. Military advisors presented sobering assessments of Earth's capabilities against a potentially superior force. As night fell over Geneva, Admiral Park received an urgent message. The public had gotten wind of the situation. The classified footage had been leaked. Demonstrations were forming in cities across the planet, with people demanding action. The largest gathering was outside the council building itself, where thousands had assembled with signs reading, "Humanity must help," and "Answer the call." 2 days later, after round-the-clock discussions and a planet-wide referendum, Earth voted. The decision was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity would respond. Admiral Park stood again before the council, this time with a formal authorization in hand. "We will deploy our fleet within 72 hours. Our first ship will be diplomatic, backed by our defense forces. If negotiations fail, we are authorized to provide military assistance to the Ilarians." She looked out at the solemn faces of Earth's leaders. Some still showed doubt, others determination. Let history note that when faced with our first true test as a spacefaring species, we chose to extend our hand in aid rather than turn away in fear, she said. As she left the chamber, Admiral Park contacted the Fleet Command. "Prepare all ships for immediate deployment. Priority loadouts for the Newton and Einstein with humanitarian supplies. Combat readiness protocols for all other vessels." Her aide looked nervous. "Admiral, do you think we can actually help them? The Voraks sound formidable." Admiral Park's eyes hardened as she remembered the images of the Ilarian children. "The Ilarians called for help. We'll answer. And the Voraks will learn what happens when you threaten a species under humanity's protection." Captain Lee Sung-hoon's Reconnaissance vessel dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Ilarian system, the stars around them shifting from streaked lines back to points of light. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, all too aware of what was at stake. "Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels, Captain," reported Navigator Shin-ji, her fingers dancing across the controls. Sung-hoon nodded. His orders from Admiral Park had been crystal clear. Assess the situation and engage only if absolutely necessary. The Odyssey, his ship, was one of Earth's most advanced vessels, but it was designed for reconnaissance, not heavy combat. "Scan the system," he ordered. The holographic display in the center of the bridge came to life, showing the Ilarian home system in 3 dimensions. The inner planets glowed blue, indicating Ilarian control. The outer system pulsed red, Voraks occupation. "Multiple Voraks ships detected," reported Tactical Officer Yoon Minji. Her eyes narrowed at her console. 23 vessels of various sizes. Most appear to be mining craft with escort frigates. She looked up, surprise evident on her face. "They're ignoring us. They don't consider us a threat." Sung-hoon's lips curved into a grim smile. "That's their first mistake." He studied the tactical display. The Vorak ships moved with mechanical precision, stripping resources from the outer planets and moons. Their patterns were methodical, efficient, and predictable. "Send the data package to the fleet," Sung-hoon ordered, "and prepare to deploy our scout drones." The small human fleet had stationed themselves strategically throughout the system's outer reaches, rather than gathering in one location, a sure way to attract attention. Sung-hoon had ordered them to split up. 6 ships scattered across billions of kilometers of space. The scout drones deployed silently, tiny unmanned craft that accelerated toward the Voraks mining operations. Within hours, they were transmitting detailed information about Voraks technology, communication patterns, and defensive capabilities. They rely heavily on automated systems, Minji noted, analyzing the incoming data, and their communication frequencies operate on a narrow band. It's efficient, but vulnerable. Sung-hoon finished her thought. Prepare the EMP packages. Earth had perfected electromagnetic pulse technology centuries ago, refining it through numerous conflicts. The packages they had brought were specially calibrated to disrupt electronic systems without causing permanent damage, a precision instrument rather than a blunt weapon. Sir, incoming transmission from the Ilarians, Communications Officer Jang Hosu announced. They've detected our presence and are requesting contact. Sung-hoon straightened his uniform. Put them through. The view screen activated, showing an Ilarian face. The alien had silver-blue skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light, large eyes with double pupils, and no visible nose. I am Talik, leader of the remaining Ilarian forces. The alien spoke, the translation software converting the clicks and whistles into smooth Korean. You have come from Earth. Yes, Sung-hoon confirmed. I am Captain Lee Sung-hoon of the Earth Reconnaissance vessel Odyssey. We received your distress call. Talik's eyes widened. You are so similar to us in form, yet different. We had not expected a response, certainly not so quickly. The Vorax have driven most species into hiding. We're not most species, Sung-hoon replied simply. We have a plan to disrupt their operations, but we need your cooperation. Can you provide us with access to your moon base in the outer system? 48 hours later, Sung-hoon's strategy was ready. Rather than engaging the Vorax directly in ship-to-ship combat, he deployed his 6 vessels in a scattered formation. Each took position near a different Vorax supply route. Remember, timing is everything. Sung-hoon instructed the fleet. We strike simultaneously, then immediately relocate as per the planned coordinates. The human ships launched their attack with surgical precision. EMP packages detonated near Vorax supply vessels, temporarily disabling their systems. Earth's fighters swooped in during the confusion, targeting propulsion systems and communication arrays before disappearing back into the vastness of space. Hit and run, Sung-hoon explained to Talik, who watched in amazement from the Ilarian moon base where Representative Choi Hyunjin had established a joint command center. We can't match them for firepower, so we don't try. The Vorax response was slow and confused. Their ships, suddenly unable to communicate effectively with each other, fired blindly into empty space while the human vessels were already elsewhere. They don't understand what's happening, Talik observed. They're used to overwhelming force against defenseless opponents. This kind of asymmetric warfare is unfamiliar to them. The pattern continued for days. The human ships would appear, strike vulnerable targets, and vanish before the Vorax could mount an effective response. Earth fighters deployed mines along supply routes. Small, automated drones attached themselves to Vorax hulls, transmitting location data and disrupting internal communications. When the Vorax finally organized a coordinated response, they found their communications disrupted by precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses, a human specialty the aliens had never encountered. Their command ships, unable to direct their forces effectively, began to pull back from the outer colonies. We've forced them to abandon 3 mining outposts, Minji reported with barely contained excitement. They're consolidating their forces around the gas giant in Sector 4. On the tactical display, the red indicators representing Vorax ships slowly retreated from the outermost planets. Sung-hoon allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, but kept his expression neutral. Maintain pressure on their supply lines, he ordered, and prepare for their counterattack. They won't stay confused forever. On the Ilarian moon base, Representative Choi Hyunjin stood beside Talik as they watched another Vorax harvester retreat from the system's edge. The Ilarians' silver-blue skin, pulsed with what Hyunjin had learned, was their expression of amazement. How? Talik asked, mandibles clicking with emotion. No one has ever forced the Vorax back. Not in all our recorded history. Hyunjin's eyes remained fixed on the display, where Captain Lee's ships continued their dance of approach and withdrawal, striking where the enemy was weakest and never staying in one place long enough to be caught. "They've never faced humans before," she replied simply. In the silence that followed, both human and Ilarian knew that this was just the beginning. The Vorax would adapt. They would learn. But humanity had shown something crucial, that the supposedly invincible hierarchy had weaknesses, and for the first time since the invasion began, the Ilarians dared to hope. The Vorax Supreme Commander's compound hummed with an unsettling vibration. Mechanical appendages twitched as the towering figure reviewed the battle reports. 3 mining outposts lost. Supply lines disrupted. Harvesting quotas unmet for the first time in 7 cycles. Unacceptable. The Supreme Commander's voice resonated through the chamber, a mix of electronic tones and grinding metal. These humans are primitive by our standards. Their vessels should be easily neutralized. The intelligence officer, a smaller Vorax with fewer augmentations, approached cautiously. "Supreme Commander, we have underestimated them. They do not fight as expected. They strike and vanish. Our sensors cannot track them efficiently. Then we will crush them with overwhelming force," the Supreme Commander decided. "Dispatch the main battle fleet, all of it." Within hours, 47 Vorax warships began moving toward the inner Ilarian system. Each was a massive construct of dark metal and crystalline weapons arrays, bristling with harvester arms repurposed for combat. They'd moved in perfect formation, like a swarm of predatory insects. Earth's small fleet detected the approaching armada immediately. "They've committed their entire battle group," Captain Lee Sung-hoon reported to Earth Command. "This is no longer a skirmish. They're bringing everything they have." On the flagship Dauntless, General Han Jinwoo received the reports with grim determination. At 53, Han had spent most of his life in Earth's defense forces. When humanity decided to answer the Ilarian call, he had been the natural choice to lead the military response. "All ships, form defensive positions around Ileria Prime," he ordered. "Prepare for full combat operations." Lieutenant Yoon approached with hesitation. "Sir, we're outnumbered 8-1. Even with the upgrades, we can't possibly." "We're not here to win a conventional battle, Lieutenant," Han interrupted. "We're here to show the Vorax that their actions have consequences." The general turned to his weapons officer. "Unseal weapons protocols Alpha through Delta. Authorization code Han 7 to 73 Echo." Throughout the human fleet, locked weapons bays began to open, revealing systems that had been classified even to Earth's own allies. Rail guns capable of accelerating projectiles to near-light speed. Plasma torpedoes designed specifically for space warfare. Targeting systems that could predict enemy movements based on the most subtle thrust adjustments. "Earth has always prepared for the worst," Han explained to his stunned bridge crew. "We hoped never to use these weapons. Today, we have no choice." As the Vorax fleet approached Ileria Prime, the beautiful blue-green homeworld of the Ilarians, the human vessels formed a protective screen. 8 ships against 64, David facing multiple Goliaths. "All vessels, maintain formation," Han ordered. "Wait for my command." The first Vorax salvo lit up space between the fleets, energy beams, and projectiles crossing the void. Human ships rolled and evaded, their movements unpredictable and organic compared to the mechanical precision of their enemies. The Dauntless shuddered as it took a glancing hit. "Shield integrity at 80%, reported Tactical Officer Park Do-yeon. Returning fire." The rail guns activated, magnetic accelerators propelling dense metal projectiles to devastating speeds. The first Vorax vessel hit by the barrage shuddered, then split apart along its central axis, secondary explosions blooming in the vacuum. For a moment, the Vorax advance faltered. "They didn't expect that," Han noted with satisfaction. "Continue firing. Cruisers 2 and 3, target their flagship." The battle intensified as the Vorax recovered from their surprise. 2 human vessels, the Galileo and the Hawking, disappeared from tactical displays, overwhelmed by concentrated fire. "We cannot hold forever," Lieutenant Ba Seojin reported grimly. "The Copernicus is reporting critical damage. The Einstein has lost propulsion." General Han nodded. "We don't need forever, just long enough." His eyes tracked the tactical display, where small signals indicated the approach of Earth's second wave. Admiral Park had committed everything to this defense. Meanwhile, on the surface of recently liberated Illyrian colony worlds, a different kind of battle was unfolding. Colonel Song Yunji led specialized infantry units through the crystal forests of Illyria's third moon. With her were 30 human soldiers and twice as many Illyrian volunteers. "Move like water," she instructed as they approached a Vorax mining facility. "Strike where they don't expect you. Never engage directly unless you have overwhelming advantage." The Illyrians learned quickly. Though physically more fragile than humans, they possessed natural camouflage abilities, their skin changing color to match their surroundings. They moved with grace through their native terrain, guiding the human forces to vulnerable targets. After disabling the facility's perimeter sensors, Yunji's team placed charges at key structural points. The resulting collapse would disable a harvesting operation without destroying it completely. "We don't want to destroy what we're trying to save," Yunji reminded her team. As they retreated to safe distance, an explosion rocked the ground, much larger than planned. A secondary Vorax patrol had detected them and launched an attack. 3 Illyrians lay wounded, their silvery blood pooling beneath them. Without hesitation, human medics rushed forward, applying emergency treatments while soldiers provided covering fire. "Get them to the transport," Yunji ordered, laying down suppressive fire with her rifle. The human Illyrian team moved as one, protecting their wounded as they fell back to their hidden shuttle. Once aboard and safely away, Yunji checked on the wounded. The human medic, Dr. Nam, worked alongside an Illyrian healer, their techniques different but complementary. "They will recover," Dr. Nam assured her. "Their physiology responds well to our regenerative compounds." A young Illyrian child, barely half the size of a human, approached Yunji cautiously. Its skin rippled with colors that the translation software identified as indicating confusion. "Why risk your lives for us?" the child asked, head tilted in a very human-like expression of curiosity. "Your kind never met us before. You could have stayed safe on your world." Yunji removed her helmet and knelt down to meet the child at eye level. Around them, humans and Illyrians worked together, tending wounds, analyzing data, preparing for the next mission. "Because that's what humans do," she said simply. "When someone asks for help, we help. It's who we are." The child's skin changed to a warm golden hue, the Illyrian expression of understanding and gratitude. Above them, in the space surrounding Ileria Prime, General Han's forces continued their desperate defense. 3 more human ships had been lost, but they had taken 12 Vorax vessels with them. And now, as the Vorax pressed what they thought was their advantage, the second wave of Earth ships dropped out of hyperspace behind them. The tide was turning, not through overwhelming force, but through human determination, adaptability, and willingness to sacrifice for others. Qualities the mechanical Vorax, for all their technological might, could not compute nor counter. The attack came without warning. New Sol, Earth's most distant colony, had just celebrated its 5th year of establishment. The settlement dome gleamed under the light of its red dwarf sun, home to 8,000 colonists who had traveled 11 light-years from Earth to build a new life. The colony sensors detected the Vorax ships only minutes before they arrived. 3 massive harvesters accompanied by a dozen war vessels dropped out of hyperspace and immediately opened fire. Emergency protocols. Get everyone to the shelters. Colony Director Shin screamed into the communication system as the first blasts struck the outer dome. Warning sirens wailed throughout the settlement as families grabbed emergency packs and ran for the underground bunkers. The colony's small defense force scrambled to their positions, but their weapons were designed for asteroid deflection and local security, not war against an advanced alien fleet. They managed to launch a distress beacon before the communication array was destroyed. Within 4 hours, New Seoul was in ruins. The main dome had collapsed, agricultural sectors were burning, and the mining facilities had been systematically stripped. 3,000 colonists had made it to the shelters. The rest were presumed dead. When the news reached Earth, the response was immediate and unified. Emergency sessions were called in every government. Military forces went on highest alert, but it was President Oh Min-woo's address that captured the planet's mood. Standing before the United Earth Assembly, his normally calm demeanor replaced by cold fury, President Oh looked directly into the cameras broadcasting to Earth's billions. "The Vorax have crossed the line," he announced, his voice steady despite his anger. "Until now, we've shown restraint. We engaged only their military targets, avoided civilian casualties, and limited our operations to defending the Illyrians. That ends today." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I have authorized the deployment of all available military assets. The Vorax chose to bring this war to our doorstep. They will soon learn the cost of that decision." Within hours, Earth's shipyards revealed what had been their most closely guarded secret. Hidden beneath massive stealth fields, engineers had been working around the clock for months on a vessel unlike any humanity had built before. The Vengeance emerged from its construction dock, dwarfing all other ships in Earth's fleet. Its hull incorporated lessons learned from the conflict so far, with adaptive armor designed to resist Vorax weapons. Its propulsion system combined human innovation with principles observed in Illyrian ships. Its weapons systems were the most advanced ever created by human hands. Admiral Park Ju-woo took command personally, boarding the flagship with a hand-picked crew of Earth's finest officers and engineers. "The Vengeance isn't just a ship," she told them during her first address on the bridge. "It's a statement. The Vorax believe they can intimidate us by attacking our colony. They believe we will retreat in fear. They are wrong." Reports arrived from across known space as the Vengeance prepared to depart. The Vorax attack on New Seoul had sent shockwaves through other civilizations who had suffered under their expansion. Species that had previously remained neutral now reached out to Earth and the Illyrians. The Tyranni, a species of gas giant dwellers whose outer worlds had been harvested decades ago, offered their advanced stealth technology. The Vesperi, crystalline beings who had lost 3 homeworlds to Vorax expansion, contributed their knowledge of energy shield harmonics that could better withstand Vorax weapons. "We've received commitments from 7 different species," reported Diplomatic Officer Kang to Admiral Park. "They're sending ships, technology, and intelligence on Vorax movements." Admiral Park nodded thoughtfully. The Vorax wanted to terrify others with their attack on New Seoul. Instead, they've united everyone against them. As the coalition fleet assembled near Jupiter, Admiral Park addressed the gathered commanders. Ships of various designs surrounded the Vengeance, each representing a species with its own grievance against the Vorax. "All ships, Formation Alpha," she ordered. The Vorax wanted to see humanity's full strength. Let's oblige them. The jump to the Illyrian system took 18 hours. When they arrived, they found the situation had deteriorated. The Vorax had pulled back from their frontier positions and were massing their forces for a final assault on Ileria Prime. In the Illyrian Command Center, now Admiral Choi Hyunjin and Talek coordinated the coalition's forces. Choi had earned her promotion through her brilliant defensive strategies that had kept the Illyrian homeworld safe despite overwhelming odds. Talek's skin had dulled from its once vibrant blue to a pale gray, a sign of extreme stress in Illyrians. "The Vorax Supreme Commander has sent a final communication," he said, voice breaking. "They have ordered the complete destruction of our homeworld. Not just harvesting. Total annihilation." Choi's expression hardened. "Not while humans draw breath." She turned to the tactical display, where Admiral Park's approaching fleet appeared as friendly indicators. "We need to coordinate our defense. The Vorax will expect us to concentrate our forces around the planet." "What do you suggest?" asked Talek. "We give them what they expect, and then surprise them." Choi replied. The Tyranny stealth ships can position themselves here and here. She pointed to locations behind the Vorax fleet. The Vesperi shield generators can reinforce our orbital platforms, and when the Vengeance arrives. Her plan took shape quickly. The coalition forces moved into position, each species contributing its unique strengths to the unified defense. When the Vorax fleet began its advance toward Ileria Prime, they encountered what appeared to be a desperate last stand. Illyrian defense satellites fired continuously. The remaining human ships from General Han's fleet maintained a tight defensive perimeter. It looked exactly as the Vorax had anticipated, the last futile resistance of a doomed world. The Vorax Supreme Commander, observing from the safety of their command vessel, felt the mechanical equivalent of satisfaction. Begin the final approach, it ordered. Prepare planet cracker weapons. That was when Admiral Park's fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly behind them. All ships, engage as planned, Park ordered from the Vengeance's command deck. Target their capital ships first. The Vorax fleet found itself caught between the defending forces around the planet and the new arrivals. When they attempted to communicate with their forward scouts, they discovered their transmissions being blocked by Tyranny interference technology. As the Vengeance led the charge, its massive rail guns tore through Vorax ship after Vorax ship. The coalition forces attacked in perfect coordination, each applying pressure exactly where the Vorax defenses were weakest. For the first time in recorded history, the Vorax Supreme Commander felt something akin to fear. These humans had done what no species had managed before. They had united the galaxy against the hierarchy. Retreat, it ordered. Regroup at the secondary position. But as the Vorax ships attempted to withdraw, they discovered that retreat was no longer an option. The battle had turned. The hunters had become the hunted. And at the center of it all, the Vengeance continued its relentless advance toward the Vorax command ship, humanity's answer to those who had dared attack their people. The Vengeance cut through space like a blade, its massive hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. On the bridge, Captain Shin Minna stood with her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Before them loomed the Vorax command station, a massive structure of dark metal and crystalline spires that served as the nerve center for the entire hierarchy. Final approach vector locked in, reported Navigator Kim. Defense grid active and tracking us. Captain Shin nodded calmly. Though only 36 years old, she had earned her command through brilliant tactical thinking during Earth's early skirmishes with the Vorax. Now, as the coalition forces closed in on the Vorax command center, Admiral Park had entrusted her with leading the final assault. Status of support vessels. Shin asked. Tyranny stealth ships in position. Illyrian light cruisers maintaining perimeter. Vesperi shield generators at full power. Tactical Officer Bay reported. The coalition is ready, Captain. The first volley from the Vorax defense grid lit up space around them. The Vengeance shuddered as its shields absorbed the impact, but held steady on course. Return fire. Target their outer weapon platforms first, Shin ordered. The Vengeance's main guns roared to life, sending precisely aimed bursts of energy that shattered the nearest Vorax defense platforms. As debris scattered across space, Shin studied the station's layout on her display. Intelligence gathered from liberated worlds had provided detailed schematics of the command center's design. There, she pointed to a pulsing red node near the station's core, their main power distribution hub. If we can disable it, their defenses will fail. The problem was reaching it. Between the Vengeance and its target lay layers of automated defenses, fighter squadrons, and reinforced armor plating. A direct approach would be suicide. Captain Shin smiled thinly. Prepare the shadow dancers. From the Vengeance's launch bays emerged a dozen small, nimble craft, a hybrid design combining human maneuverability with Tyranny stealth technology. Each carried a specialized payload designed to penetrate the station's defenses. Shadow dancers deployed, announced Flight Control. Pilots report ready. Begin approach pattern Omega, Shin ordered, and prepare main batteries for concentrated fire on my mark." As the shadow dancers slipped past the outer defenses, nearly invisible to Vorax sensors, the Vengeance accelerated directly toward the station's main hangar. It seemed like a reckless charge, drawing all defensive fire toward the massive human flagship. "Shields at 60% and dropping," warned Engineer Park. "We can't take much more of this." "We don't need to," Shin replied calmly. "Just a few more seconds." The shadow dancers reached their positions, attaching themselves to key junctions around the station's power core. Simultaneously, they detonated specialized EMP charges, creating a cascading failure throughout the Vorax power grid. "Now," Shin commanded. The Vengeance's main batteries fired in perfect synchronization, targeting the momentarily exposed power core. The precision strike tore through the weakened defenses, reaching deep into the station's heart. But Captain Shin's next order surprised her crew. "Target their power core," she ordered, "but minimize civilian casualties. Tactical, avoid the habitat sections." "Civilian casualties?" questioned her first officer. "The Vorax are machines." "Not all in that station are Vorax," Shin replied. "Intelligence reports confirm they use organic slave labor from conquered worlds. We're here to end the hierarchy, not become like them." The Vengeance's weapons systems adjusted, carefully avoiding the sections identified as potential holding areas for enslaved species. As the station's defenses crumbled, Shin opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Shin Minna of the Earth vessel Vengeance. Your defenses are neutralized. Your fleet is scattered. Surrender now, and all non-combatants will be spared." For long moments, there was silence. Then, a transmission came through, not in the mechanical tones of the Vorax, but in the voice of one of their subject species. "This is Coordinator Zenth of the former Vorax Command. The Supreme Commander has been deactivated. We surrender." Throughout the galaxy, the news spread rapidly. As the Vorax leadership surrendered, subject species across their territory revolted. Harvesting ships were disabled by their own crews. Military vessels stood down or joined the coalition. The hierarchy that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries collapsed in weeks. Liberation teams found thousands of enslaved beings from dozens of species within the command station and across Vorax territory. Among them were Ilarians thought lost during the early days of the invasion. Captain Shin personally oversaw the rescue operations, ensuring that medical teams reached all survivors. When she found a group of Ilarian children huddled in a processing center, she knelt down despite her formal uniform. "You're safe now," she told them softly. "You're going home." 6 months later, on the rebuilt Ilarian capital, representatives from 37 species gathered in a grand crystalline structure built specifically for this historic occasion. The chamber sparkled with light reflected through its transparent walls, illuminating the diverse gathering of beings, some humanoid, others wildly different in form, all united by their shared experience. Admiral Park Ju, now serving as Earth's primary representative, sat at the central table alongside Talik and leaders from the coalition species. The mood was solemn yet hopeful as they prepared to formalize what they had begun to call the Galactic Cooperative. Talik, his skin now returned to its vibrant blue hue, rose to address the assembly. His voice, translated simultaneously for all present, rang clear through the chamber. "We gather today not just as survivors, but as architects of a new future," he began. "For too long, our galaxy was shaped by fear. Fear of the Vorax, fear of each other, fear of reaching out. It took the courage of one species, previously unknown to most of us, to show another way." He turned toward Admiral Park and the human delegation. "It is fitting that humanity chairs this first session," Talik continued. "They reminded us all what it means to fight not just for survival, but for something greater. When we begged for help, they answered, not for profit or territory, but because they believe in protecting others." The treaty signing proceeded with representatives from each world adding their mark to the document. The cooperative would maintain a defensive fleet, establish trade routes, and ensure mutual protection against any future threats. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Park was invited to join Talek for the unveiling of a monument in the central plaza of Ileria Prime. There, in the soft light of the Illyrian sunset, stood a sculpture of an Illyrian and human hand clasped together in unity. The crystalline material caught the light, sending rainbows across the gathered crowd. Beneath it, inscribed in multiple languages from across the galaxy, were the words that would come to define the new era. They begged for help, and humanity answered with compassion and fire. Admiral Park read the inscription silently, then turned to Talek. "This is just the beginning," she said. "There's an entire galaxy waiting to be explored, together." As night fell on Ileria Prime, the stars became visible through the transparent domes of the city. Among them, ships from dozens of worlds moved in peaceful transit, their lights tracing new connections across what had once been divided space. The war was over. The healing had begun, and humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest, but through courage and compassion when it mattered most. The end.